Mabuhay. This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea, a channel about marriage to a woman from the Philippines. Today I want to talk about when to stop chatting with one. Please leave comments here and subscribe to my channel. Now, of course, every conversation with a Filipina, starts somewhere, and you hope to continue that conversation all the way up to meeting her in person. But there are some signs that shouldn't even take place, or even if you have met in person, you need to not plan on another plane trip up there. And so for YouTube videos, I'll link an article in the description box from psychologytoday.com, 9 signs of that a relationship can't be saved. And it'll have these points in there, and I'm going to change them to basically when you are single and looking for a wife from the Philippines, because that's what people tend to watch these videos for. Now, I want to help people have a good marriage and also not marry the wrong person. So pay attention here, and we'll talk about some ways to recognize when it's time to consider that the Filipino you're talking to might not be the one you should marry. And please leave comment here if there was a time you decided the best thing to do was to move on, not talking to her anymore. And so this will take multiple videos, and I'm just going to briefly talk about the first point they list is when the discussion has become impossible. It's time to stop chatting with a Filipina. Excuse me, when the discussion has become impossible. Now, one reason this might be difficult is if you've been talking for a long time. What is that? To me, a long time is like anything over a year, because I think by 6 months you should know, or even less, whether or not you're serious enough about her or she's got enough good points for you to go out and meet her. After a year, I think you really should know whether that's the person to go meet. Not necessarily to marry, but to go meet. But if at any point it's become impossible, even if you've invested 2 or 3 years into it, you need to consider just moving on and not chatting with her. Now, for whatever reason, if the communication is stalled, you'll need to ascertain why. It may be that the Filipina has found someone else that she is more interested in, and that's why her availability is not what it used to be. You can also ask the Filipina if she is learning things about you that is making her uncomfortable. You don't have anything to lose really with that question. Perhaps her family is against your relationship. What she has revealed to them about the foreign guy, maybe there's just not good chemistry, and one of you has noticed that. There was one Filipina I talked to early on who seemed to, her responses took about half an hour to get back to me. And I thought, what in the world's going on here? And then the response would come in, but then 5 minutes later it'd come in again, which made it even more weird. So probably she was just using some kind of a translator, which means she probably didn't speak any English whatsoever, and was taking the time to find a translator to communicate with me. Now, since I was looking for a wife, I needed somebody whose English was good enough to have normal communications with. As a second language, it's not going to be as fluid and fluent as if she was brought up speaking English. But if she needs a translator to know what you're talking about, I think that is a very big red flag. Discussion has become impossible. At that point, it's time to move on. Maybe she's just never on time. Maybe she has nothing to say. Maybe she's never had anything to say. But on YouTube, I've got 3 videos on, probably 4 or 5 total, on questions to ask a Filipina at different stages of the relationship. And if she just doesn't really have any answers, she doesn't want to put any thought into those answers, then I would say it's just not a good possibility that you're going to be getting together and ending up with a good marriage. That could be lots of reasons. I won't try to go over all of them here. That the discussion has stalled. Maybe he got off to a good start for a month or so, and then nobody had anything to say, and you couldn't think of anything to talk about. Well, that's also a bad sign. One thing you can talk about is if you're going to get together and what it's like living in her country, what it's like living in your country. You just got to find ways to stay in touch, show her what you're doing, where you live on camera, and she can show you where she is to try to bring you closer together. Some people play games online, but if you get to a point where discussion just has become impossible, don't worry about how much time you've invested in her. I would say it's time to move on and look for another love beyond the sea.